All right. Happy Friday, everybody. Thanks for joining me this morning. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started here. I will assume that you can hear me. So like I said, if it's your first time joining us, I start taking questions up to an hour before. So if you have questions, you can come in here and get them in here early so they can be in the beginning of the office hours. So I'm going to start with Brent W. He posted his question 49 minutes ago. There were some questions that were posted after the office hours yesterday. So Sam M and Randall P, if you two are on here, go ahead and just repost your question on there. And if I have time, I'll go back and answer those toward the end. But for now, we're going to be answering questions that I got up to an hour ago. And the reason why I do that is I want to make sure that people are here to see their questions get answered. And an hour before the office hours start, we send out an email to everybody, not everybody, everybody who opts into that email to get that notification to let them know that office hours are going to be starting in an hour. If you want to get that email, just go to the customize. If you go to the office hours tab, click on that customize office hours notifications, and you can click to set those up. So Brent W. Says, I struggle with chunking my shots and I'm trying to shift my weight to my front foot. I noticed during my fluid and stable spine drills that as I tilt my shoulder and hips, I'm shifting more weight to my back foot. How do I transfer weight to my front foot? Thanks. So Brent, sounds like you're on the right track there. The key is it sounds like you're doing it way too late. So what needs to be happening here is you need to actually be shifting your weight to your lead foot. There we go. You need to be shifting your weight to your lead foot. The weight needs to be shifting as you are finishing the backswing. So as you're getting to about right here, your weight's going to be shifting. And that way, when you start the downswing, you've got some pressure in this lead leg to help you to start everything happening in motion. That way you have momentum. And then from there, you can brace on that. And that's going to allow you to be in that angled away position. If you are going up to the top and you aren't shifting your weight, but you're getting in that angled away position, you're just going to fall back. You're going to try your hardest to get to your lead side, but it's just going to happen too late, and your arms are already going to be swinging in front of your body. So you need to be shifting that weight at the right time. That's what it sounds like it's happening. Again, it's hard for me to know without seeing your swing, but that's what it sounds like. So I'd recommend working on what's called the step drill and getting the timing of that weight shift correct. In doing that step drill, it's going to force you to get your momentum, your weight shifting to your lead side as you are completing that backswing. So to find that step drill, it's actually in several videos on the website. There's one in particular that I think will really help you because it really explains how that weight is shifting as you're completing that backswing. And that's the how to start the downswing video. To find that video, it's very, very easy to find. We have a very good search engine on the website. If you're ever looking for something in particular, it's very, very easy to use. In the upper right-hand corner of any page on the website, you'll see there'll be a little search box there. If you search a keyword for something that you're looking for, you'll most likely find a really good video on it. So, and we've covered there's very little subjects that we haven't covered as far as a video is concerned. So if you're ever looking for something specific, I'll be using that search engine, but I just searched the word downswing. If you search the word downswing, it'll be the video I want you to look at, which has the step drill in it. It's going to be that third video down. It's how to start the downswing. It's going to have some yellow lettering in the thumbnail saying stuff about how to start the downswing and whatnot. Highly recommend that video. Go and work on that step drill. And what you're doing in that step drill is basically you're starting out with your feet together. And as you start that backswing, you are stepping forward, and that's going to get your momentum going forward. I can't do the whole thing in here because I don't have enough space. This is glass, this thing behind me, and I swear I'm going to break it one of these days. It's going to shatter everywhere, and I don't want to do that. So go to that video and check that out so you can understand exactly how that works. All right, so David F. says, how open should the shoulders be at impact? So anywhere from square to slightly open is good. So basically, the shoulders they matter, but they don't necessarily matter. I don't want you to be thinking I need to have my shoulders perfectly square or perfectly slightly open or anything like that. It's more about how what the club is doing in the downswing. So having the shoulders more closed. Let's say you're coming in and your shoulders are pointed. If you went socket to socket, your shoulders are pointed right of the target. If you're a right-handed golfer, your shoulders are way closed as you're coming in. Well, that would most likely mean that you're swinging probably too much into out. You're not opening up your body enough, and you're swinging too much into out. So that's most likely what would be happening there. If your shoulders are way too open, let's say your shoulders are way open like this as you're coming in, not just slightly open, way open. Most likely what's going to happen is the club and everything is going to be coming like this over the top. So typically if your shoulders are coming in and they're fairly square at impact, that most likely means that your club is working more down the plane and you're more in this square position at impact with the shoulders. But typically what you're going to see with tour players is going to be slightly open. We're talking like 10 to 12 degrees open is the tour average there. So it's square to slightly open is usually going to be a good spot. But that doesn't matter that much if you are, let's say your shoulders are square here, but you're coming like this. Like you need to focus on what the club is doing, and your shoulders may be in a position to help you to get that club come down on plane. But if you are going out like that, it doesn't really matter what the shoulders are doing. The ball only cares about how the club is being presented to it at impact. So having those shoulders nice and square or slightly open at impact is going to help you get that club in the right position, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to happen. So look at what the club is doing and really focus on that. And usually if you get the club working down on plane, those shoulders are going to be square to slightly open. All right. So John Z says, please explain the difference between straight line release and a roll release. Okay, so that's a good question. So basically when we talk about straight line release, we're talking about the club splitting the forearms when we are in the follow through here. So we're coming in, here's impact right here. We haven't released the club yet, hopefully. Ideally, we wouldn't have released the club yet to this point. And then we're getting to about right here, and we see where the club is splitting the forearm. See how it's pointing straight into my sternum? If I were to take the club like this, you could see that splitting my forearms completely there. That's what we consider to be the straight line release position. So that's all the straight line release is. That's when the club is splitting the forearms. Ideally, that would be about 45 degrees out in front. Most amateurs we're going to see it's going to be about right there. It's going to be 10 to 20, 25 degrees out in front because usually we've got an early release going on. But tour players, what you're going to see is that's happening. It's out in front. It's in that straight line release position. That's all the straight line release is. Now, what you're talking about as far as a rolled release is, a rolled release is also a straight line release. You are releasing that club at some point. Every release is basically a straight line release. We just want that to happen out in front about 45 degrees. It's where your straight line release is. We just call that straight line release because we're looking where that line is splitting the forearms at the shaft there. So a rolled release would be more where the hands are coming in and they're rolling over quite a bit through impact. So you're coming in and it's just rolling over. Most people have more of a rolled release as they're coming through. A squared release, which would be kind of the opposite of what a rolled release would be where you're coming in with the club face more square. You're not rolling the wrists as much, and it's kind of more like that is typically what you're going to see. It's not as much of rolling the hands over through impact. So there's pros and cons to that. So the more that the face is rolling over, the faster it can be because the toe is moving faster than the heel of the club. So if it's rolling over more through impact, if it's the rotation of the shaft is more through impact, you're going to get a little bit more speed going through there. The downside to that is that the face is going from open to close fairly quickly, so it becomes a little bit more timing based. You've your squaring of the face, it may be a little bit less consistent because you're going from open to close very quickly. Whereas if you have a squared release, it's square longer. There's not as much variance there, but the face, you're going to be losing a little bit of speed because the face isn't rolling over as much. So that's basically the difference there. Both of those, you want to result in a straight line release that is out in front, 45 degrees, roughly in that area. That's what you want. But you can have a squared or a rolled release, and hopefully it results in that straight line release that we talk about in the Toss Golf system. There's actually a great video on the website where Clay goes over this. He actually, I think, he has 2 examples. So Rory McIlroy, he would have someone who has more of a rolled release through impact. He really rolls his hands over as he's coming through impact. It's part of how he's able to get a lot of speed. I mean, that counts for a small portion of it, but that's one way you can get a little bit more speed. Excuse me. And then Jordan Spieth is someone who he kind of keeps that club face a square as long as he can through impact. He has more of a squared release through impact, but both of them release this club out in front in that close to 45 degree positions, which is what we call the straight line release. So I highly recommend checking out that video. If you want more information about Clay talking about it and comparing the two, to find that video, I would just you can just search square release or roll release. You'll most likely find that video. In fact, I'll do a quick search for you, and we will find out right now if that will find the video or not. Just bear with me for a second here. All right, so roll release. Let me see if I find it. That should still be on the website. Yes. So it's actually the first one. If you search roll release, 2 words, it'll be the first one there. And it actually shows, the thumbnail shows both of them in that straight line release position. And Clay goes over in some good detail there. Probably a little bit more information for you if you wanted to learn more and see a visual also of 2 people that have a squared and rolled release on there. So I'd check that out if you're wanting to look into that. So Bob L, and make sure you get your questions on here. It looks like there's no more questions after Bob L. So I'll actually go, after Bob's question, if there's no questions there, I'll actually go back and answer Randall's, and I can't remember who the other one was that had their question there. So get your questions on there, and I'll most likely get answered here in the office hours. So Bob L says, please explain how forward shaft lean is enabled or promoted by tilting away from the target into impact. So that is a great question. All right, so let's go over this real quick. So Clay talks about this a little bit in that straight line, or not the straight line release, but the stable and fluid spine section. So basically, a lot of times what we're going to do is we're going to typically release that club where our body is pointed as we're coming into impact. So if you're coming into impact and you are kind of in this vertical position, you're typically going to want to come down and release that club right there. Whereas if you're more in this angled away position, where I'm in this 18 to 25 degree angled away, if I'm looking, I'm my center of my hips, center of my shoulders, basically in that area, I'm going to be in that 18, 25 degree range. That's going to allow me to get this club to release out in front. So that's why we want to be in that angled away position. If you are like this, it's going to be hard to get this club to release out in front like that. It's just not going to happen. Your body is not going to be in the right position to be able to release everything out in front. So I would urge you to kind of get in that position, get in the position where you are more vertical, straight up and down, and feel how unnatural that feeling is right there. I actually have to bend my arm and to get in that, it's just very uncomfortable. But now let me get into that angled away position. Now I'm angled away here, and I can eat. This is way more comfortable to get this club to release out in front. So that's the main reason why, is because it puts you in a position where you can release that club out in front. If you're straight up and down vertical, that club is going to tend to want to release right in front of you in the direction of where your spine is pointing. You get more in that angled away position, it's going to help you to release that club more out in front. So that's a great question there. So since we don't have any questions here, I'll go back and answer, I believe it was Sam N's question. He said, could you explain the basics of a draw and fade? So let's talk about the basics of it. Basically what it means is If to fade a ball, the club face needs to be open to your club path. So the ball is always going to start mostly in the direction of the club face, and then it's going to curve away from your club path. So if you want to hit a ball that starts left of the target and then curves back toward the target, you need to have the face slightly closed to the target at impact, but open to your path. So what that would mean is, and I actually had this graphic up earlier, I don't know if you can see this very well, but basically this would be your club face. This line right here is your club face. Let's say that that's 5 yards to the left of the target. That's where that's pointing. So in order to get this ball to start left of the target and then curve back to the target, your club path, which would be this right here, would need to be 10 yards left of the target. So it needs to be double that. So that's basically the basics. The easiest way to kind of set up to hit a fade, the easiest way to do it is to basically set up with your club face pointed at the target or where you want the ball to start, essentially, and then set up your body either open if you're trying to hit a fade or closed if you're trying to hit a draw. And what that will do is that will help you to swing to the left a little bit with an out to in path with the face open to the path so that the ball will start to the left and curve to the right. If you're trying to hit a draw, now I'm closing my stance and I'm swinging more into out with the closed club face. That's going to help my ball start to the right and curve to the left. So that's the basics right there. So what I'd actually recommend doing is to go out and go to the extreme with it. Try to hit the biggest slice you can possibly hit. Try to hit the biggest hook that you can possibly hit and actually get the feeling of how the ball is curving in the air. And this is assuming center face contact as well. If you hit it, and if you hit a miss hit, different things that can happen due to gear effect. But assuming you're getting center face contact, you're going to be able to get some pretty good curvature on the ball. So what I'd recommend doing if you're new to hitting draws and fades and things like that, I'd try to go to the extreme with it. So I'd set up first, I try to hit my fade. If this light, my outlet here, if that's my target, I'm going to point my face at my target there, and I'm going to aim my feet way left. And I'm actually going to maybe move this ball up in my stance just a little bit too to help me get my path moving even more to the left as I get to it. And I'm just going to try to hit the biggest slice I possibly can. And then I would try to get a little bit more comfortable with that. And then I would just tone it down a little bit open, just be a little bit open and just try to hit some little fades with it. And keep in mind that if you're using a high lofted club, like this is my pitching wedge, you're gonna be hard pressed to get much curvature on it because the more loft, the more backspin there is, and the less apt the spin axis is going to want to tilt. Basically, what happens is the more backspin there is, the more it stabilizes that spin axis, and it doesn't want its tilt as much, which causes the ball to curve. So, and then to hit a hook, I would aim my face at that socket here. Maybe move it back in my stance a little bit to help me promote that into out path. I'd really close my stance, and then I would really try to hit a big old snap hook. And then from there, I just try to ease off of that to hit that draw. So that's how I recommend people start to learn to hit draws and fades and things like that. And I highly recommend that because a lot of times, most of the time we aren't calibrated perfectly to hit that dead straight shot that we want to every single time. And there's also going to be times when we want to hit draws and fades often throughout a round. So, and that's what all really good players do. So, and the reason why you want to learn to hit draws and fades, even if you don't have any desire to hit draws and fades out on the course, is because it's going to help you to adjust your feeling to get your desired result that you want. Let's say you go out there and you're trying to hit straight shots, but everything's kind of slicing to the right. Well, the best way to fix anything is to exaggerate the opposite. What would be the opposite of a slice? That would be a hook, right? So trying to hit a hook would most likely straighten that out a little bit. And then once you actually get to where the ball is starting to draw too much, then you can ease off of that feeling a little bit. So that's how you're able to go through a round and not end up with these big, huge slices every single time. You can make an adjustment in the middle of your round to get that ball to straighten out. So that's why I highly recommend working on that stuff. And I think it would be really beneficial for you if you went out there and tried that. This is stuff that we do in the ball striking masterclass. We work on hitting draws and fades, high and low and all that kind of stuff. So We probably won't be offering the program again until mid to late September because we just opened enrollment on it a while back. We're only able to open a certain amount of spots, but highly recommend that course if you're looking to be able to control your ball flight a little bit better. All right, so let me answer Randall's question real quick, and then we'll scroll to the top and see if there's any new questions up there. All right, so Randall P says, what set of irons would you recommend for a senior male beginner? Well, if you're a beginner, I would actually recommend buying a used set of clubs because it's a much smaller investment. You don't know if you really like it yet or not, so that way you're not investing. New clubs are expensive. They are not cheap. So I would recommend just getting a used set of clubs. If you're a senior, you may want graphite shafts because they're a little bit lighter. It's going to be a little bit easier to swing. I would recommend kind of a what's called a player improvement iron. It's going to be a little bit more bulky, a little bit more center of gravity in the back of the to help you get the ball up in the air and help you launch it a little bit better. So all of those things I would look at. As far as a particular set of irons, I don't know of a particular set of irons that would look at, but those would be the things I'd be looking for. And I'd recommend just going to your local golf shop and just talking. Hopefully you have a local golf shop that sells used clubs. If you go to like a Golf Galaxy or a PGA Superstore or something like that, they will have some used clubs there typically, and you can get a pretty good deal on them, some used clubs. Or maybe you can go there and figure out kind of what you need, and you can go online and buy them you probably find them online for cheaper and buy them online. But if somebody helps you or whatever, I like to, still buy it from them, even though it might be a little bit more expensive because, they helped me. They provided a service to help me. So I'd be going to the store and tell them, hey, I'm a senior golfer. I'm new to the game. I'm just looking for a set to get me started. And they should get you steered in the right direction. They want a new set. If you can get a good deal on a new set, then there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that usually used sets are going to be less expensive. They may try to sell you a new set, but I would, if they do try to do that, ask them if they got any used ones that may be less expensive if you're not looking to spend that much. So that's what I'd recommend doing. So best of luck with you, Randall. Hopefully you can find what you're looking for. All right. So looks like we got some questions that were posted in here. So Joy P says, when I angle away, I tend to hang back and hit it fat. Any tips to prevent that? So yeah, weight shift. It sounds like, you have the same issue that I believe somebody mentioned earlier. I believe it was Brent W mentioned earlier that I talked about earlier. It sounds like you're not getting that proper weight shift forward. So I've been working on that step drill. I'm not going to go through everything like I did earlier. You may have missed the beginning of the office hours there, but you need to make sure you're getting a proper weight shift to your lead side. If you are just angling back and not getting any weight shift, yeah, you're going to be hanging back in the swing and you're going to end up hitting it behind the golf ball and topping the golf ball. So make sure that you're getting that good weight shift to your lead side. The best video that I know of on the site that shows the step drill that I'm talking about is how to start the downswing. And if you go to the search engine on the website in the upper right-hand corner, search the word downswing. It's going to be the third video down, I believe. At least it has been, unless we had one that bumped it down. But it's going to have some yellow lettering in that thumbnail. That's the one you want. Click on that one, and it goes through the step drill. Most likely what's happening is you're just not getting your weight shifted early enough in the swing. So you're not getting that momentum moving to your lead side. You're just kind of statically hanging here and swinging and your low point is happening way before the golf ball. All right, so David C said, what should my swing thought be to prevent popping up my hybrid club? So it sounds like, first of all, popping it up, your swing thought, just an easy swing thought for you would be to hit it on the lower part of the face. That's what I'd be thinking of, because if you're popping it up, you're hitting it on the top of the face, right? But to alleviate that, I'd be trying to hit it with the lower part of the face. That's what I'd be thinking about. That'd be the easiest swing thought. But most likely what's going on is you're coming down and you're chopping down into it. Maybe it could be the lie as well. It's kind of hard to pop up a hybrid unless you're really chopping down into it, and or the ball is just sitting up way too high. Maybe I don't know if this is off of a tee or off the turf or what, but if it's off of a tee, you may be teeing that ball up too high. Hybrid, you just want to tee it up off the turf. If you're teeing it up, you just want to tee it up to basically give you that perfect lie, to make it like it's sitting up on the grass, like it's on a perfect lie. That's all you're wanting to do there. So that could be what's going on as well. But most likely, you're kind of chopping down into the golf ball to get that's how you're getting that high on the face contact. So I'd be looking at your compression line. Look at your swing on video and with the hybrid and see what your compression line looks like. Most likely what it's going to be is you're going to be pretty vertical. And when I say compression line, I'm talking about the line that goes up from your ankle to your hip to your shoulder at impact. So at impact, you're coming in. You want that to be slightly angled away, just like this, slightly angled away. Most likely what's going on is you are either bumped out and then like that, or you're more angled forward. So you're kind of chopping down into the ball and you're getting that high on the face contact. So immediate thought would be hit it lower on the face. And then if you are hitting off a tee, make that adjustment, tee the ball to lower to where it's just giving you a perfect lie, and then check that compression line, work through that compression line course to get to where you're more in that angled away position that we like. And to find the courses on the website, that compression line course, click the house icon, scroll down, and you'll see all the courses there in your progress. Click on that compression line course and start working through there to get that a little bit better shape. All right. All right. So Charles F says, Bob L question, how do you get the shaft tilting away from the target? I see how it helps with the straight line release. So yeah, I just Charles F, hopefully you were able to get a good explanation from that question. Again, I'm not going to go through and re-answer questions over and over and over again. We do archive these office hours. So if you see a question that was answered and you weren't here to see it yet answered, I'm not going to answer it, again over and over. So just check out the archived office hours that I will post after we get done. Usually I have them up within a half hour. So this will get done at about 10 a.m. Eastern time. By 10:30 a.m., I will have the archived office hours from today, and you'll be able to see the answer to your question on there if you happen to miss the question that you wanted. So Richard S says, best advice to cure heel hits with iron. So best advice is to, I know this might seem trivial, and whenever I tell people this kind of stuff, they always just kind of look at me like, that's it? That's all I have to do? And the truth is, yes, initially that is all you have to do. But if you are consistently hitting the ball in the heel of the face, try to hit the ball in the toe. Line up as you normally would. Don't line up on the toe. I just want you to line up the way that you normally do, which is, I'm guessing, is right in the center of the club face. I want you to line up like you normally do, and then intentionally try to hit it off the toe. And I know this is going to be out of your comfort zone because you're intentionally trying to hit a bad shot. But the reality of what's going to happen is most likely going to move that strike closer to the center. Because here's what's happening. You're trying to hit the ball in the center of the club face. But what's actually happening, the reality feels not real, right? The reality is that you're hitting it off the heel. So what you have to do is you have to adjust your feeling to get the desired result that you want. And this is out of a lot of people's comfort zone. But if you actually do it, you will most likely get that strike more in the center of the club face. So line up as you normally do. Set it up in the center of the face as you normally would, as I imagine you normally would, and try to hit the ball on the toe. Most likely that'll move the strike closer to the center of the face. If you still hit it off the heel, that means you didn't get out of your comfort zone. You stayed comfortable, and you still ended up with your bad result. Exaggerate it even more. Try to get even more out of your comfort zone and exaggerate it to where you get this strike out more in the center of the face. If you actually strike it off the toe, well, awesome. That means that you were able to adjust your feel. On the next one, just ease off of that feeling a little bit to get it more in the center of the face. You may even need, if you are still hitting it in the heel, you may need to exaggerate it so much that you feel like you are missing the golf ball to the inside. So that could be what's going on. Now, as far as setup things, it's possible. This isn't usually the case, but it's possible you may be standing too close to the golf ball. Try moving just an inch or two further away. Maybe that will help. But that can be to your detriment as well. Like if you're already standing pretty far away and you're hitting it off the heel, that's not going to help you. It's hard. Basically, what you want to have is about a fist's worth. It really depends on the club, but pretty much, driver, because it's longer. You have a driver right here. Because it's longer, it's going to be further out away from your body because it's a longer club. With an iron or a wedge, typically it's going to be about a fist's worth of space in between there. So if you're like this already, you already have all this space and you're already kind of too far away from the ball, setting up even further is not going to help you. But if you're kind of like this and you can see kind of your hands are kind of buried in your lap, moving away from the ball just a little bit, that may help you to get rid of those heel strikes. It's not a very common thing, but it could be what's going on. So check that on camera. That could be a reason for the heel strikes. Another reason for the heel strike is too much in-to-out path. So you can check this on camera as well. Set up the camera so it's right down your toe line. Let me angle this up just a little bit. So that it's right down your toe line, and check to see where this club is coming down in the downswing. If this club's coming down and it's way inside your hands, so by that I mean it's on this side of my hands, this would be, I'm coming down, it's in line with my hands, right? In line with my hands. This would be outside my hands, and this would be inside my hands. So if the club's coming in really inside the hands, it's coming in like this, that means your club path is most likely very much into out as you're coming to the ball. And if you're swinging really into out, what's happening is that heel, into out would be this way, that heel is coming in at the golf ball. If you're coming in more on a neutral path, the center of the face is coming in nicely. But if you're coming in like this, it's going to rely on some timing to get that center face contact. So a lot of times this results in a heel strike because the heel is moving toward the ball. So feeling like you're swinging a little bit more over the top, again, this is adjusting your feeling. It's not the reality of what you're going to do, but you're adjusting your feeling. Because if you're doing this, feeling like you're doing this may help you to actually get this club working nicely down on plane. So that could be one piece of it. Another piece of it is the hips moving toward the ball at impact. So if you are coming down and your hips are kind of doing this action, so if I'm going to line my backside to the edge of this vent here. And what happens, what I see a lot of times is I see people, they kind of go like this. See how my backside is moving away from that? So what's happening there is I'm taking away space for my arms and my hands and the club to move through. And a lot of times that kind of moves the club out toward the golf ball. This also can make the club drop way under plane. When I stand up, I go like that. So if you are coming down steep, this is most likely the cause for this, because you're coming down steep, you stand up to get the club to work down on plane. The club works too much from the inside, and or the hips are moving toward the ball and takes away space. So that's going to be the move course, working on that move, getting the feeling that instead of standing up and getting this club to work down on plane, getting the feeling that my hip is moving back and out of the way, and my backside, if you watch here, my backside's aligned with this vent here. We call that the tush line, right? As you're going up the top, it's staying on that tush line as I'm coming through, and that's going to allow you to stay in your posture a little bit better. So those are the pieces for the heel strikes. But the best advice, if you're just looking for the best advice and the easiest advice to implement, would be try to hit it off the toe. It's really that simple. If you don't have time to go out and practice, you're just a weekend warrior and you just keep on hitting it off the heel, and you don't have time to go out and practice and change your swing and do all these different things that I'm talking about, then just try to hit it off the toe. That's going to be the easiest thing for you, and that will most likely move the strike closer to the center of the face. All right, so Charles S. says, any drills to keep my right forearm from rolling over when I try to hit a fade? Not necessarily any drills. Again, it's just trying to adjust your feeling to get the desired result that you want. What you're trying to do is you got to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. you're used to rolling this face over to get that club face to square up. So what I try to feel like when you're hitting that fade is just go to the extreme with it. Feel like you're not even rolling the face over at all. Feel like that face is just wide open. And again, this isn't the reality of what's going on. You're just adjusting your feel to get to the desired result that you want. So if you're getting that club face to close too much as you're coming into impact, you need to get the feeling that the face isn't closing at all. And I would just practice this. This isn't something you just want to go out to the course and just start implementing, because odds are you're going to have some bad ones, some failures before you get it right. So go out and work this out on the range and go out there and try to hit some shots where you feel like you're not even rolling the face over at all. It's just staying wide open. Feel like as you're coming through, your palm of your trail hand here is pointed up to the sky. I try to feel like it's pointed up to the sky, because that's what's rolling the face over, is the hand going, that trail hand going like that, right? And if you feel like it's coming in and it's pointing up to the sky like that, that face isn't going to roll over. So I just try to feel like you're coming in, you're holding that face open, and it's pointing, that right hand is pointing up to the sky as you're coming through, instead of rolling over like that. And that can help you leave that face open. So I give that a try the next time you go out. Just go to the extreme with it. Feel like you are not rolling the face over at all. And if you leave the face way open, then you can just ease off of that feeling a little bit. So instead of feeling like it's pointing way up to the sky, maybe you just feel like it's kind of pointing off to the left just a little bit, and just slowly ease off of that toward more what you're comfortable with until you get that desired result that you want. All right, so we don't have, we have plenty of questions. I just needed to scroll. There we go. So we got plenty of questions on here. So Ryan P says, should a 3-wood have a tighter dispersion than driver normally? I hit most clubs, including driver, with a little fade or draw, but 50% of my 3-wood hook out of play. Tried a new 3-wood, same result. Ideas of what would cause this? I'm going to work on face path, but looking for club-specific ideas. So technically, just generally speaking, yes, your 3-wood should have a tighter dispersion than your driver, because it's shorter, it's easier to control. There's not as much club head speed involved typically. There's more backspin, which kind of stabilizes the flight a little bit more. So all of those things in general, yes, you should have a little bit tighter dispersion than you would with your driver. But it sounds like, I would guess kind of that your 3-wood, the shaft, it may be kind of kicking a little bit differently than maybe your driver does, or there could be tons of things that are going on. But basically, it sounds like the timing of things are a little bit off. But I will tell you, with just to fix a hook in general, a hook is caused by the face being closed to the path. So if the face is close to the path, then it's going to curve. It's going to curve to the left. It can also be caused by a toe strike. So maybe just the way that you're setting up your 3-wood, just the way it looks to your eye, you're hitting it off the toe all the time. That could cause the whole thing. You may be hitting it with a perfect path and everything, but maybe hitting it way off the toe, and that's causing you to hook it quite a bit. So I would check your strike location. Use something like foot powder spray, or you can take a Sharpie or a dry erase marker or a washable marker and put a little mark on the ball. Let me see if I had a golf ball. There we go. So if you put a little mark on the ball, so let's pretend this is just a little Sharpie marker, and I just put like a little heavy dot on the golf ball. And what I would do is I would just set up that dot to where when I hit it on the face, it'll rub off on the face, and then you can see where you strike it on the face. That's my favorite way to do it. But if you have drivers that are black, they have the black faces, like this ping one I have. If you have a lot of the woods are like that as well, it's hard to see those marks on there. So I recommend using foot powder spray for these drivers with the black faces, because it's just a lot easier to see. So I would check your strike location. If that's what's going on, then I would just try to hit it off the heel a little bit to get that ball to straighten out. Now, let's say there's center strikes and you're getting those hooks. Then you need to, like I said, adjust your feeling to get the desired result that you want. If you're hitting hooks, and exaggerating the opposite of that would be hitting a cut, right? Hitting a fade shot. So I'd be trying to hit some fade shots where I'm coming in, I'm trying to cut across the ball. I'm coming in with an out to in path. Again, this isn't the reality of necessarily what you're doing, but you're kind of coming in with an out to in path and with an open club face. Try to slice some, try to hit some that really, really slice on you, and then tone that down to where you're getting a little bit more of a better ball flight for you. I will say, this is fairly common. A lot of times we have different. I used to have this issue in college. I had a hybrid. I loved this hybrid, but once I got all my new clubs, that ended up being pretty much the oldest club in my bag, my hybrid, just because I loved it so much. But when I got all my new clubs with all these different shafts and things like that, I ended up getting used to a swing with all those clubs. And then when I would hit my hybrid, I would hook the crap out of it. I'd kind of do the same thing that you're talking about, hook the crap out of it. Well, it had a steel shaft in it that was a different timing than the other shafts. So basically, I just had to get in my mind that, okay, I'm going to try and hit a little cut with this one every single time. So that might be what's going on with you, is that the shaft just isn't timing right. So I would always try to kind of have the same shaft throughout all your driver, your fairway woods. That's where I'm at now. I've got this my 3-wood driver and my hybrid. They all have that Ping Tour shaft in it, which is sock shaft, by the way. That's a really good shaft that you can get for free in the club. You don't have to pay an upgrade fee for it. It was actually the best shaft that I hit. I even tried some really expensive shafts, and none of them really did better than that Ping Tour shaft. So it was nice because I didn't have to pay extra or anything for it. So, and again, we are a Ping ambassador. Just want to mention that real quick. Clay is a Ping ambassador. So just to let you, that's why I have all Ping clubs. I love them. I highly recommend them. But I just want to let you know that we are an ambassador for Ping, or at least Clay is. And just as a kind of a disclaimer. All right. So moving forward here. All right. So John C says, can you explain shaft loading? It's not something I'm really well versed in. But basically what it means is as you are changing directions with the club, your shaft is basically it's distorting, right? It's starting to flex here at the top, and that's basically loading up that shaft. So as you're coming into impact, usually that shaft unloads and you actually get it usually ends up to where it's kind of bending forward a little bit. But that's basically in a nutshell what it is. I'm not an expert on what shaft loading and all that is. I'm not really a club expert or anything like that. I stick more to the instruction side. I would like to get more into it, but I will tell you I'm not an expert. That'd probably be a better question for someone who's a club fitter or something like that, something that I'm not. But basically, from my understanding of what it is, it's basically when the club switch. I could be completely wrong about this as well, but it's basically when that club is switching directions, that shaft is loading essentially at that point. So that's I don't have a real big explanation for that, but I'd recommend asking a club fitter about that question. All right. So David C says, when I turn my hands in the move, I tend to hook or smother the ball. What am I doing or failing to do to hit the ball straight? So it sounds like you're not getting forward shaft lean. So I get this kind of all the time. So basically what the move is what allows you to get forward shaft lean at impact. You have to be doing everything in the move to make that happen. So it sounds like, if we were to break down the move into, you can call the entire golf swing a move, right? But there's things that are broken down in the swing that you can call different moves. So the move consists of many things, but it's broken down into one thing. So to break it down into several things, it's the shallowing of the club, and then it's the squaring of the club face earlier in the swing so that you can get forward shaft lean in a square club face at impact. So if you are turning this handle down and not getting forward shaft lean at impact, then you're going to get those hooks, those left strikes if you're right-handed. Because what's happening here is Usually what you come into impact, you're used to coming into impact and flipping the club. So here's a square club face, and I'm flipping no forward shaft lean. If I bring the club down here, look at my wrist angles. Okay, so this is me at impact, no forward shaft lean. And you can see that my trail wrist is pretty flat, and my lead wrist has got some cupping in it. It's broken down. So basically, if I were to take this and push my hands forward and not change the wrist angles, you can see how the club face is wide open now. So in order to get this club face to square up, I've got to turn my hands down. So now you can see I have forward shaft lean and my face is square. If I put this back down on the ground, now you can see I'm in my forward shaft lean position. I got my trail wrist is in this bent back position, and my lead wrist is actually in a slightly bowed position at impact. Now, everyone will have a little bit, depending on the weakness or strength of your grip, your lead wrist may look a little bit different, but pretty much everybody, that right wrist is going to be in that bent back. That trail wrist is going to be in that bent back position. So if you come into impact and you're used to flipping the club through impact, so you don't have forward shaft lean, but now you turn that handle down. So now I'm like this, no forward shaft lean. I'm turning that handle down. Now I've closed the club face. So you're missing the forward shaft lean part of this. You're still flipping and turning that handle down to try and square up the face. You got to get the forward shaft lean. Maybe you're not shallowing out. Maybe you're coming down steep and you're trying to turn the handle down and you're flipping the club at the same time. You've got to come down shallow, because what happens is if you don't come down shallow in the swing, a lot of times what happens to get this club to come back down, let's say you're coming down steep, to get this club to come back down on plane, I've got to stand up. And when I stand up, I got to flip the club to get to the golf ball. I stand up to get this club to come back down on plane. If I don't stand up, what happens is I'm either just going to shoot this club straight down into the ground, or a lot of times I'll come over the top and I'll swing kind of in this direction, or a combination of the two, essentially. So what we got to do, what most good players do, people who are coming down steep, because this is basically the only way to hit a good golf shot if you're coming down steep, and that is to come up out of it. Now, it's going to go straight. You know, if your timing is good, it can go straight. It can go on target, but it's going to be high, and it's going to be, if it's into the wind, forget it. It's just going to balloon way up on it, and you're going to create lots of distance loss there. So we want to get this club coming shallowed out so that it's already on plane, basically, and we can just turn through impact and stay in our posture. And then from there, if we're staying in our posture, then we're going to get forward shaft lean. And in order to square the club face, when we have forward shaft lean, we've got to turn that handle down in a different way than what we were doing before, and that's what squares the face. So you're probably not shallowing out the club and standing up, or you may be shallowing out the club and you're just standing up to because that's what you're used to doing. But I'd recommend working through the move course and get to where you're shallowing out that club. That tennis racket drill, the 1.3 from the move, that's going to be the best drill for you to work on to get that working out a little bit better. All right, so we got quite a few questions left here. We'll keep on moving through here. So Stephen B says, when doing the move, I find that I really concentrate. I have my wrist bowed at impact. My ball mostly is going left and drawing. So he had the same question. And he said, oops, looks like I had the same question. Yep. So hopefully, Stephen, that helped you as well. So James M says, I seem to hit the ball to the left of the green when I line my shoulder at the center of the green. What I have to do is to face to the right of the green, and the ball is right of the center of the green. This okay? So yeah, you're adjusting your feeling to get the desired result that you want. So if I wouldn't focus so much on what your body is doing, try to focus on what the club is doing, and whatever your body needs to do to make the club do what it does. Because you can have your body and all kind. I think this is kind of a pitfall that a lot of people get into. They feel like, oh, I just need to do this with my elbow or this with my arm, but that's not always the case. You can, I've heard a lot of people, and this is very common instruction about people saying, oh, you just need to open up your hips to shallow out the club. That is not true. You can open up your hips and still come over the top. You can open up your hips and do all sorts of things. Does opening up your hips make it easier to shallow the club? Yes, it does absolutely make it easier, but it doesn't make something automatic. If you react to what the club is doing, you're going to have much better results than if you're trying to do a specific thing that in the swing that's that's not necessarily going to make what you want to happen. So hopefully that makes sense, and you look at it kind of from that perspective. But yeah, you want to instead of what may have been a little bit easier is if you were lining up as you normally would, that's how you feel comfortable. You just adjust your feeling to get the desired result that you want. So if you're hitting the ball left, that's a product of the club path moving left and your face being in that same direction. So I would try to hit a push out to the right with my normal stance, or maybe you were set up closed and you didn't realize it. It's all about kind of looking at what's going on and then adjusting your feel to get the desired result. It sounds like you did that to a certain extent, but next time I'd recommend trying to think about what the club is doing and try to alter that, and that may give you better results. Because odds are, as you're turning your body and you're making things, you're going to adapt, and you may start hitting it left again, even though you feel like you're getting your body closed off, because we're very easily adaptable. All right, so Ray W says, I tried to stable and fluid spine course, but it makes me fall back off the shot. Yeah, you addressed the section I should review. Can you tell me that again? In addition, any immediate tips to balance my weight shift playing today? Want to practice. So I would go to that not never exercise again. The how to start the downswing video, that step drill, that's going to help you. Most likely what's going on is you're just starting that weight shift too late. So basically you're getting angled away, but you're not shifting your weight until late in the downswing. And by that time, your arms are already racing out in front of your body, and you have no choice but to kind of hang back in the swing. So get that weight shift starting earlier. Get it starting. The weight is going to be shifting as you are finishing your backswing. So that doesn't mean the pressure is shifting. Don't confuse pressure and weight and momentum shift. They're two different things. I look at it as walking, right? So when I'm walking and taking a step forward, my weight, my shift of my weight and my momentum, it's going forward, it's going that way. But the pressure that I'm putting into the ground is going back behind me because I'm pushing off with my leg to step forward. Same thing's happening in the golf swing. As I'm going up to the top, pressure is building up in my lead foot, but my weight is starting to shift here. And then as I start that downswing, that's when my pressure shift is happening. And now I'm getting that pressure in my lead foot, and it's building up as I'm turning all the way down into impact. So don't confuse pressure and weight shift. That's kind of an immediate thing. I know for some people, it's going to be kind of like, tapping your head and rubbing your belly. It's going to be kind of like that initially. But once you kind of get it down, don't get frustrated with the drill. Just kind of try to get the drill down. Once you get that, it's going to force you to get your momentum moving to your lead side. It's going to make things a lot easier for you. So go and work on that drill. How to start the downswing. If you search downswing in the upper right-hand corner, you'll find it's the third video down. I just checked it a minute ago. Third video down, you'll be able to find that. It's got yellow lettering in the thumbnail. That's the drill that you want. So Mark L says, what's your opinion on the RIT release? And please discuss the pros and cons. I don't know what the RIT release is, so you'll have to tell me what that is. So Mark L, if you're still on here, we got about 5-6 minutes left. So if you want to tell me what the RIT release is, I may not know what it is, so I may not have an opinion on it. But just first off, I don't know what RIT is or what it stands for. So go ahead and post that on here. Really, when we're talking about the release, the only thing we care about is that the club is releasing out in front. You can use a more squared release, like a Brooks Koepka or a Jordan Spieth or any of those guys. They use more of a squared release. Lee Westwood, it's kind of a squared release as they're coming through impact. You can use a release like that. That's completely fine. That still falls into the straight line release category. They're releasing that club out in front. Or you can use more of a rolled release, which is more like an Adam Scott, a Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods. These guys, they're using a more rolled release through impact. They both fit into our straight line release guidelines that we're trying to do. That's all we care about. We want this club to be releasing out in front. The reason why we want it releasing out in front is because a club releasing out in front is a result of forward shaft lean. So if I angle this down a little bit, if we have forward shaft lean, so if we're coming into impact, right, we got some good forward shaft lean here. So this is a great impact position. My body is opened up. I got the club face square. I've got forward shaft lean. My compression line is nice and angled away. And I'm in a really good position here at impact. And then from here, that club releases out in front. So if I have no forward shaft lean, so let's say I'm coming into impact, my body is squared up to the ball. I'm kind of like this at impact, not much forward shaft lean. And then the club releases basically right there. It's typically where it happens for a lot of amateurs. That's not what we want. That means that you're coming in, you're flipping the club, and you're most likely going to have a lot of thin shots, a lot of chunk shots. You don't take divots, that sort of thing. That's going to make it more difficult to hit the ball well. So Mark L says it's a more squared release. Yeah, that's completely fine. You can have a squared release. The pros to a more squared release is that there's less face rotation. So the face is coming in. There's going to be you can't stop the face from rotating through impact. That's just, angular momentum and all that stuff. It's not going to happen. But there's going to be less face rotation. So what that's going to allow you to do is that's going to allow you to keep the club face square longer through the impact zone. And theoretically, you could be more consistent doing that. This is what Jordan Spieth does. This is what Brooks Koepka does to a certain extent. Lee Westwood. A lot of these guys, they're trying to hold that face square through the impact zone. And that's what that squared release is. But they're still releasing that club out in front. The con to this is that the face isn't going to be moving as fast because it's not rotating as much. So if you think about if there was no force behind this at all, so I wasn't doing this at all, and if I just came in to impact like this, there's zero rotation of the club face. If we're just trying to go to the extremes here, there's no force, there's no extra force. It's just nothing. I'm not going to be able to hit the ball. But if I just go like that and go like that, that's giving some force to the golf ball. So that's what's happening when you are rolling through impact. You're getting a little bit extra oomph from that rolling of the club face through impact, and you're going to get more speed. That's not a theoretical thing. That's a fact, the scientific fact of what's going to happen. Now, theoretically, you're going to be less consistent because you're going to have to time it a little bit better because your face is going from open to close more quickly. So the timing of that face being square at impact is, it's more dependent on timing. So it's just, I wouldn't really rack your brain about trying to get the squared or rolled release. I would look at really just trying to get that straight line release, trying to get that club to release out in front. This is something, working on a rolled or squared release. This is something that maybe you would work on or experiment with to see if you get better results after you are already nailing all the pieces of the Top Speed Golf system, like the stable fluid spine, compression line, power turn, straight line. After you're doing all of those things, that would be like one of the 5%. 95% of playing good golf, technique-wise, is the 5 pieces of the Top Speed Golf system plus the move. That's 95%. And you can add the 20-minute distance fix in there as well, getting that good speed. The 5% is just the little finicky stuff. Is kind of the stuff that gets brought up a lot of times in these office hours, talking about the little things that don't really matter that much. You can play great golf with a rolled release. You can play great golf with a square release. You just have to find what works best for you. I recommend not even thinking about that, to be honest, until every single piece of the Top Speed Golf system, you are doing those well. And then at that point, then you can work on the little things that don't really matter that much. The reason is that it's going to take a lot of time for you to work on this, to get this right. And it's really probably not going to make that much of a difference in your game. Whereas you can spend the same amount of time working on your club head speed, or working on your stable fluid spine, or your power turn, or straight line release. You can spend that time working on that, and it's going to help your game a lot more because it's a lot more important than the squared release versus the rolled release. All right. So last question here. John V says, I can't translate improvements made in practice to my game. In fact, my swing goes to hell, and you'd think, why didn't it censor that? That's interesting. It didn't censor hell. Usually, I mean, it censors balls sometimes. So anyway, it said you'd think I'd never had a club before. Burying the club, toe shots, dribbles. I am probably thinking too much. Help, Mr. Wizard. You calling me Mr. Wizard? All right. So basically, a big reason why we're able to be Michael Jordan out on the practice tee, and we're somebody who's never played basketball before, maybe out on the golf course. The reason why it feels like that is because when we're on the driving range, there's no. I mean, it's the easiest place to hit golf balls. You're hitting it off of a perfect lie every time. You're hitting the same club every time. You're hitting it. A lot of times, you're just hitting it into oblivion. You're not even hitting it at anything. A lot of times I watch people hit balls in the range. They're not even hitting at targets. They're just hitting it out to nowhere. You are, like I said, you're hitting the same club every time. The wind, there's no pressure. There's all kinds of reasons. Just in general, you're always going to hit the ball better on the range than you do on the course. Now, when you are practicing on the range, if you're trying to translate, I would end your range session this way every single time. I would try to actually play the course on the range. So whatever course you play the most often, maybe it's the one you're the member at or something like that, I would end your range session, maybe the last 30 balls or so, and I would play the course, play 9 holes or something like that in your mind on the driving range. So let's say the first hole is a 400-yard par 4. There's trouble to the left, but it's wide open to the right. So maybe you would sit there because, okay, well, this is a draw shot because I want to start it away from, if you're that kind of player that has control and being able to hit draws and fades and something like that. If you're not, you're just aiming down the right side of the fairway. But if you are someone who hit draws and stuff like that, you'd be hitting a draw down the right side of the fairway. That would be what your thinking is. So you would do your whole routine, get into it, hit your shot, and depending on what happens, let's say you snap hooked it way out of bounds. Well, you out of bounds, you're hitting 3 on your next one. So let's say you hit it 250-yard drive and you hit it perfectly just the way that you want to, right down the middle. Okay, you got a 150-yard shot into the green, and then now you're going through the whole thing again. Maybe you're visualizing, there's the ball is on the left side of the green, so I'm going to hit a draw that starts at the middle and then goes and draws left toward the hole. So that's what you'll be doing. You'll hit your shot. If you hit it on the green, you hit a shot, you feel it's on the green. The cool part about this game is that you make all the putts. You one putt everything. So you shoot really low scores if you're getting it on the green quite frequently. If let's say you chunk it, it goes 100 yards. You have a 50-yard pitch shot. The next one, grab your wedge or whatever it is and hit a 50-yard pitch shot, get it on the green, go on to the next one. So you play the course in your mind. In doing this, you are switching clubs every time. You're going through the thought process. You're making it as similar to the golf course as you can. If you sit there and you just hit ball after ball after ball after ball, and you just hit all of them great, and then expect to go to the golf course and the same thing to happen, it's kind of silly because it's not the same thing. There's time in between shots. You're going to be uneven lies. There's going to be wind in a different direction. Maybe your ball's in a divot. There's all kinds of things that are going on that are different. So you can never expect to hit the ball better than you do. It's just like when you're playing basketball. If you're just out there and you're just shooting shots, nobody's in your face. Yeah, all the time in the world, just shoot the shot, and you can sit there and just think about it. There's no crowd noise or nothing. Sure, you can go out there and shoot great all the time, but in the game, now there's pressure. You've got to shoot it fast. Somebody's coming up with their hand in your face and all this stuff. It's a lot different. You can't expect to shoot the ball as well in a game as you do when you're just messing around and shooting around in practice. So all of those things make a difference. So when you go out on the course, just focus on impact. That's the other thing that happens as well, is I find people go out to the course and they're focusing on what their elbow is doing, or they're focusing on what their head is doing, and they're focusing on these different things. And typically those aren't good things to focus on. You want to focus on what the club is doing. And if you hit some shots and you hit it off the toe, then try to hit it off the heel. You're trying to adjust your feeling of what's going on at impact and with your ball flight. If you're trying to hit the ball straight and you're hitting a bunch of slices, try to hit some balls that hook. Try to hit some balls that hook to straighten that out. That's what I'd recommend doing. Just try to go out there, be confident in the swing that you have, that you're naturally gifted with, and go out there and just focus on your impact and try to play solid golf. If you're out there trying to focus on every little piece of technique that you're doing, then those are all internal focuses, and that's taking away from the focus of hitting the golf ball, and that's more than likely what's happening with you. So hopefully that helps. Give that a try the next time you go out. Just focus on hitting the golf ball solid and making solid contact, having a good path, hitting the ball before the ground, and you're going to have much better results as opposed to thinking about trying to keep your spine stable the whole time and things like that. Whatever you're doing on the practice tee, it has to subconsciously make its way out onto your swing on the course. Because if you're, like I said, if you're thinking too internally, you're going to have trouble with the external thing, which is hitting the golf ball, which is the most important thing. So hopefully that helps, John. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll be back here on Monday, Monday is 3 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be back here. So I will talk to you then. Everybody have a great weekend. I'll talk to you next time.